My name is Melanie Merriman, and one of the things I remember about Japan is how kind everyone is there. And as an honored guest, I had to learn not to voice interest or possible needs, because any of that was translated by the Japanese into an obligation to fulfill every one of my desires. So I had a wonderful time there, getting to know the people, and also having some very interesting experiences, which I wrote about.
In the winter of 1982, I spent 3 months as a visiting scientist at Tokyo University. When offered the fellowship, I almost turned it down. I didn't know at the time that I have an anxiety disorder. What I did know, and kept hidden, were my random attacks of uncontrollable panic. My whole body would tense up and tremble. I'd break out in a cold sweat, and in preparation to fight or flee some nameless threat, my digestive tract would beg to be emptied. Vomit, diarrhea, often both. The attacks were diabolical and unpredictable, but often triggered by stressful situations. Being alone in a country as foreign as Japan sounded pretty stressful. I knew little about the culture, didn't speak the language, and wouldn't be able to ask, "Where is the bathroom?" But I also recognized this trip as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I turned to one of my more successful coping skills, worst-case scenario planning. Worst case would be an attack every day. Even if that happens, I thought, it's only 3 months out of my entire life. Maybe, just maybe, there'll be a few good days. Sometimes the key to happiness is low expectations. A blue-eyed blonde, petite by US but not Japanese standards, I couldn't exactly blend in. But I was protected from feeling too strange by my colleagues at the university, especially Endo-san, the only other woman in the lab. According to Japanese culture, I was an honored guest. I was very well taken care of and rarely left to fend for myself. Endo-san taught me to negotiate the Tokyo subways, and thankfully, she taught me how to ask for the restroom. Toire. Toire? The porcelain trench-style toilets were a surprise, but I quickly mastered the squat. My single room was comfortable, but presented one big challenge: staying clean. There was a small gas heater mounted on the wall that generated hot water for the shower, or rather, for the handheld shower head mounted less than 2 feet off the ground. I flipped a switch on the heater, and after 10 minutes, slightly warmed water trickled from the shower head. After 2 weeks, I found out that heating the water was costing me almost half my stipend. This would not work. I mentioned the problem with the shower in my room to Endo-san and asked if she had any suggestions. "Oh, Japanese not shower," she said. "We go bath. I take you." The bath? The public bath? What had I done? I knew I couldn't refuse what was meant to be a very generous offer, but talk about stress. I'd been holding it together pretty well with my clothes on, but now I'd have to get naked in front of strangers. Endo-san nodded and smiled. "Okay, tomorrow?" she said, cocking her head. We go tomorrow?" My stomach turned over. "Oh, okay," I said, offering a weak arigato. Then I headed straight for the toilet. The next evening, after a long day of work and worry, Endo-san escorted me to her neighborhood bathhouse. On the way, I tried not to think about the naked part. "Think positively," I told myself. "It'll be over soon, and I'll never have to do it again." The bath was in an ancient stone building. I was comforted to see 2 gigantic doors, one for men, one for women. Then we entered, and I realized the man taking our 100 yen sat on a platform between the 2 sides, like a lifeguard. He saw everything. The locker room was lined with wooden cubbyholes. Endo-san silently led me to 2 empty ones. She removed her jacket and pointed to a cubby. "Put clothes here," she said. So I did. Jacket, shoes, sweater, slacks, and finally undies. I reminded myself to breathe. Both of us now naked, Endo-san handed me a very small towel. Trying to appear casual, I draped it strategically over a crooked elbow like a pocketbook, so it covered my privates. I followed Endo-san into the bathing room, trying to make myself smaller and less blonde. We entered a large, completely tiled room that was divided into alleys by foot-high walls. Each wall was lined with water spigots. Through the steam, I saw about 20 women and a few children, each squatting next to a spigot. I surveyed the entire scene and was surprised that no one seemed to be looking at me. For a moment, I forgot about myself and just took in the warm mist and the soft sounds of water and women's voices. Endo-san handed me a basin from a stack near the entrance, and we squatted at 2 adjacent spigots. She talked me through the process. "Run water into basin. Get towel wet and rub with soap. Wash." She did each step slowly, and I followed along. I relaxed into the calm serenity of the bathing ritual. With every wave of steam, another layer of anxiety peeled away. The other women were completely absorbed in honoring their own bodies. Getting clean was a byproduct of a moving meditation with a soapy towel. I became a regular at the bathhouse. I visited 3 times a week on the way home from the lab, both for the meditative comfort of the bath and for its heat. My first bathhouse experience should have pushed all my stress buttons. Why didn't I tip over into full-blown panic? It took 3 years before I had a clue. That's when I was diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder. The panic is driven by biology. Faulty wiring in my glands, too much cortisol, not enough serotonin. The diagnosis came as a huge relief after a lifetime of thinking I was crazy and the stress of keeping that craziness hidden. I still don't know for sure why I didn't panic in the bath. Maybe the warm, calming ritual slowed the release of adrenaline or upped my endorphins. All that matters to me is that much of my reaction to stress, panic or not, really is out of my control. Thank goodness I didn't let it keep me from going to Japan. 7,000 miles from home, and I had never been so comfortable in my own skin.